everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody's doing well after hearing that that interview. Man, that was tough to hear, wasn't it? I'm still trying to kind of process everything and letting everything absorb. It was tough. It was actually worse than I could imagine. Like I knowing that they were both alive and what Bella had to witness, what they both had to witness, with seeing their mom being dragged down the stairs, covered up with trash bags. He said I don't know if that's true, but he said he put one on her feet and one on her head, like when they're in the car, being wrapped up in the sheet. And then what was like the most thing that really got to me is when he said that Bella watched him actually put Cece in the oil tank. Like she watched him, well, first of all, smother her or strangle her or whatever. I'll explain some of the details because I know some of the I'm gonna actually read over the transcripts. There was a request to read over the written transcripts of the interview, and then the real discussion will come this week when me and Randy will discuss it sometime this week, at the beginning of this week. But I just wanted to go over the written transcripts and maybe give a little bit of my opinion. But like I said, the real discussion will happen with Randy sometime this week. But so and like there's a couple parts where like he's kind of showing them and you can't hear what he's saying, like exactly where he put his hands when he killed Bella and Celeste. But it kind of explains it in this written transcript. But having her witness that and then witness him taking Cece and putting her in that oil tank, oh my gosh. I mean, that is to say, if there are people that don't believe his story, I believe parts of it. I believe some of it is I feel like he's trying to make himself look better in the fact that trying to make himself look like he didn't premeditate it at all, like it was not premeditated one single bit, which I think is where kind of some of the lies come in. I think he's really, why he's lying is to try to convince people, it was all like this act of rage. It was all, in the moment, and he didn't think twice about it. After the fact, when he was able to think about it, he realized, that he wasn't in control. He lost control, which is hard to believe considering he killed Shanann, and then he had like 20 minutes to half hour when he's loading the bodies to maybe calm down. Then he has a whole 45 minutes to an hour drive into the site where he would have calmed down. If he was in this rage where, like his temper and his rage, he couldn't control it, he would have had like over an hour to really think about it and to calm down. So that's why I'm not buying that at all. I could possibly buy it if it was just Shanann and he did it all at once. But as far as him, no, I'm not buying it. It was just rage. I think there is definitely some premeditation that he's not being very forthcoming on. And then as far as NK, I mean, and I just want to let you know, I haven't watched anybody else's discussion or their thoughts, any other channels yet. All I did was I listened. The CBI sent me, the tapes, the audio tapes. When was it? Thursday morning. Well, it was 10 a.m. or 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, so it was 10 o'clock my time. And then they sent me the written transcripts and a couple of those pictures that you guys all seen. But I haven't. All I did was listen to those and read over the transcript. So I haven't read any. Well, besides your comments, I haven't watched any other discussions, no other channels, because I just kind of wanted to let the interview sink in and just have my own thoughts before I discuss it with you guys, without it being affected by what other people are saying. Until after I discuss it with you guys, and then me and Randy have our discussion, I'm not going to watch anybody else's discussion until I get my original thoughts out there and how I feel, because I don't want to be biased, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but I just wanted to get my thoughts, and me and Randy both get our thoughts out there without them being affected by what other people think right off the bat. And then of course I'm going to go in and I want to listen to what other people have to say. But just originally I kind of want to just have a discussion of just listening to the interview, just the raw interview, no other influences. Besides, I have read some of your guys' comments, of course, but as far as like a discussion with any other YouTube, I just wanted it to be after the fact, after we make our first couple videos, after I read through this, and then after me and Randy discuss, then maybe I'll go on to see what other people have to say. But okay, so as far as if anybody wants a copy of these written transcripts, let me know. I could email you guys. But I'm gonna read through them. I'm not gonna do a huge discussion right now because I'm gonna wait to have that with Randy. But I'm just gonna kind of maybe give you a little bit of my input as I read through it. On February 18th, 2019, at approximately 7:45 a.m., CBI agent Tammy Lee, along with the FBI Special Agent Graham Coder and Frederick Police Department Detective Dave Baumhover, arrived at the prison. The purpose for our visit was to interview Christopher Lee Watts concerning the murder of his pregnant wife and daughters, as well as to discuss other individuals who claimed to have an affair with Watts during his marriage. The purpose for our visit was to interview Christopher Lee Watts concerning the murder of his pregnant wife, Shanann, and their two daughters, Bella, age 4, Celeste, age 3, in August of 2018. In addition, information was provided during the investigation to suggest Watts may have had additional affairs during his marriage to Shanann with a male named Trent Bolt and a female named Amanda McMahon. Watts was unable to be interviewed about Bolt and McMahon prior to being moved out of state by the Colorado Department of Corrections. Upon arrival to the prison, we were escorted into a large open room, which the staff referred to as the computer room. The room contained empty cubicles with chairs, no computers, which lined the walls. We activated our covert digital recording devices and also used several covert video recording devices. So they do have a video. So I don't know if it'll ever get released. I imagine that eventually they probably will release the video. But okay, so Watts was brought into the room a short time later, and we asked him if he remembered us. Watts looked puzzled for a brief second and then indicated he recalled who we were. We asked Watts how he was doing, and he said good, and asked how we were doing. Watts said he did not expect to see us. S.A. Coder initiated the interview with Watts and explained we were not there to speak with him about an open investigation. S.A. Coder explained to Watts that his life and situation was unique and we wanted to fully understand what happened. S.A. Coder asked Watts if he was available to speak with us, and he answered definitely. S.A. Coder told Watts if there was something he didn't want to talk about, that was okay. S.A. Coder told Watts to tell us if he needed to take a break at any point. Watts explained he enjoyed being in this prison much more than the Weld County Jail in Colorado. Watts said when he was in jail in Colorado, other inmates would constantly yell at him from their cells, giving him, Watts, advice on how he could kill himself in his cell and what the other inmates would do to him given the chance. Watts said everyone in jail knew him and why he was there. Watts explained the jail had to lock down all the inmates just for him to walk down the hallway. Watts said he never actually saw any other inmates in the Weld County Jail, but he could hear them yell at him. Watts said he has been able to call his father, mother, and sister since he's been incarcerated. Watts said he wasn't sure what his parents were going to say at his sentencing hearing in Colorado and didn't expect them to be present since they had just returned to North Carolina. S.A. Coder asked Watts if we could start to ask him questions, and Watts said, go ahead. S.A. Coder asked Watts if he knew the case was a national story, and Watts said he learned it was after his attorney told him there were people from Australia asking about his case. Watts said he received numerous letters with no return addresses, but he was only allowed to read them and could not keep the letters in his cell. Watts said there was a person who lived in Broomfield, Colorado, who wrote him 4 times a week and wanted to come visit him. Watts said he also had people write to him that told him he was a monster. With regard to Trent Bolt, S.A. Coder explained the investigation revealed numerous people who claimed to have known, dated, or had sexual relations with him, Watts. S.A. Coder asked Watts if he had heard about the people claiming to have had affairs with him, and he said yes. Watts said his attorney, John Wash, told him a male from Wyoming named Trent Bolt claimed to have had an affair with him. S.A. Coder explained Bolt's claims, and Watts denied knowing or having a relationship with Bolt. Watts said he was shown a picture of Bolt by his attorney and did not recognize him. Watts claimed he had never been to Wyoming and indicated he has never had any gay experiences or interests in the past. Yet. There was a comment from one of my subscribers. Gosh, I forget what their name was, but I thought the same thing when I was listening to that. When he said, "No, I have never had any gay experiences," this person said, "Yet," and the same thought came in my head. He hasn't had any gay experiences yet, but it's coming. Watts said Bolt claimed to have met him on an application called WhatsApp, and he, Watts, had never heard of it before. With regard to Amanda McMahon, Detective Baumhofer asked Watts about Amanda McMahon. Watts said he didn't know McMahon. Detective Baumhofer showed Watts a picture of McMahon's driver's license photo on his cell phone. Watts advised it was the same photograph shown to him by his attorney, Walsh. Watts said Walsh explained McMahon claimed to have had a rendezvous in Chick-fil-A parking lot. Watts said he had only been to one Chick-fil-A in Colorado, and it was located in Broomfield off of Highway 7. We asked Watts if he wanted to see Bolt and McMahon charged with a crime, if it was warranted, and he said no. Watts said there are always people who take advantage of situations, and they, Bolt and McMahon, need to look into themselves to figure out why they did it. Watts said he did not believe charging them with a crime would do any good. With regards to Watts' relationship with Nicole Kessinger, S.A. Coder asked Watts if he felt comfortable telling us if he had affairs with other people, and Watts said yes. Watts told us he only had an affair with Nicole Kessinger. S.A. Coder asked Watts if he ever had any one-night stands, and he said no. Around June 1st, 2018, he met Kessinger at work, Anadarko. He had a gas meter that didn't work and took it to Kessinger to have fixed. He and Kessinger ran into each other a few times in the office and would chat about work. Around the fourth time meeting Kessinger, he mentioned we moved from North Carolina. Kessinger asked him what he meant by we, and he took out his cell phone and showed her a picture of his daughters. Kessinger also saw a picture of Shanann on his lock screen. Which, remember, she said when she first met him she didn't know he was married, and she never knew what Shanann looked like. I mean, but we all know that was a lie because we seen that her Google searches, she did look up Shanann, so, before. Kessinger knew he was married and had children. He knew Kessinger lied and said she didn't know he was married. So they asked him, if you guys, I'm sure all you guys listened to the interview, when they said, well, you know, she claimed she didn't know you were married at first, and he said no, she knew I was married. Kessinger was trying to save face. That's what Watts said. She was trying to save face. He has not talked to Kessinger since his arrest. He knew Kessinger lied and said she didn't know he was married. Sorry, I'm going to start calling her NK. NK was trying to save face. He has not talked to NK since his arrest. He hopes NK hasn't written to him in a different alias that he does not recognize. He didn't wear a wedding ring at work because it was getting sized since it was too big after he lost weight and it kept falling off. So I wonder, was that the real reason? I mean, yeah, he did lose a lot of weight around that time, so I mean, I bet it probably did fall off, but like, you think that was like his number one reason he wasn't wearing it? I don't know. NK texted him one day when he was working in the field, and their text messages to each other continued. One day he and NK's text messages kind of went to a different level. And see, if we had those deleted texts, we would kind of see, you know, when that happened. But of course, we don't have a lot of their texts. NK talked about them meeting up after he returned from a trip with Shanann to San Diego. He went to San Diego from June 22nd to the 26th. After he returned home from San Diego, he and NK met at a park in Thornton, Colorado. He and NK continued to see each other almost the entire month of July 2018. He initially thought his relationship with NK was just flirting at work. He wished he would have worked more out in the field, so he never got close to NK. When he became a field coordinator, he was forced to spend more time in the office, and he would constantly run into NK. He wished he could talk to NK one last time to apologize to her about what happened and what she went through. He didn't know if NK had received counseling or if she had to leave the state due to the publicity of the case. NK refused to speak to his Watts attorney. So I guess he explains in the interview that they were trying to contact her, you know, before, it sounds like before he even took the plea, you know, during the whole, you know, right after he was arrested, before he took the plea, maybe even after he took it. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing it was before because it was his attorney. But it sounds like they were trying to get a hold of her, and he mentioned like that they left cards at her house. Well, after her phone number got changed, they knew where she lived, so they left cards at her house, like the attorney's cards, and she said she didn't want to talk. She never got with him, you know, got back with him, and she was staying with Jim, I guess. So it makes me wonder, why did they want to even talk to her? You know what I'm saying? Like, she didn't have anything to do with it. I don't know. I'm not sure why they wanted to talk to her, but he hoped NK found normalcy because Anadarko was her dream job. With regard to if he loved Kessinger, and this is how he responds, because they said, did you love NK? And he said, it felt like it was true. So, I don't know. He felt like NK pursued him, which was unusual for him. He felt more in control when he was with NK because she would ask his opinion on things and what he wanted to do. He felt like he could be himself around NK, unlike Shanann. The first time he and NK went out, they went to a movie at the Orchard off the 144th. He asked NK if she wanted to see a movie, and she agreed. The movie was sold out, and they walked around for 2 hours and talked. NK wanted to go to Shelby Car Museum in Boulder, which he enjoyed. He and NK went to a drag race at Bandimere Speedway, which reminded him of his childhood. He and NK went camping in the Sand Dunes National Park, which he always wanted to do. So it does sound like she knows, well, I mean, I guess maybe just from talking to him, or was she doing a little bit more research? Because we know she was Googling him, probably looking at his Facebook and looking at, Shanann's Facebook. So wonder if she was really interested in this stuff, or was she kind of manipulating him, kind of planning, what is he like? Let me, making sure, that he leaves his wife and goes, stays with her. So making sure that she's got him wrapped around her fingers. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. It could just be as much as like in their conversation, she learned kind of what he liked, and maybe she did really like that stuff. Or maybe she was manipulating him and pretending, to get him where, she wants him, having complete control over him. Knowing that maybe Shanann didn't do some of this stuff with him, saying, this is how I'm gonna win him over. I'm gonna start doing, let him pick everything we do and let him make all the choices. And then maybe when she had him, if she ever, if things turned out different, she might have, if he did leave his wife, might have actually changed once she already had him. Maybe she wouldn't have been like that. You know what I'm saying? It might have been all an act. But it could have been real. You never know. With me not being able to sit down and talk to her and not know her, I can't say for sure. But, maybe she was just fell for him hard and thought she was in love with him. I don't know. I don't want to say for sure. I just don't like, she was, some of the shady stuff she did, like in her interview, she just seemed kind of like a cold person. She didn't seem very empathetic to the situation. It seemed kind of fake. Why the lies, and it almost seemed like sometimes she was kind of flirting with the investigators. Like, I don't know though, I guess you got to try to put yourself in her situation. And how would you act if you were in her situation? I know a lot of you guys would probably be like, I would never be in her situation because I would never be with a married man. So, I get that, but just try your hardest to maybe put yourself in that situation. Would you have been embarrassed and erased all your texts? Or is there something more sinister going on? Is she trying to hide something, or was it just more... She knew the media was coming for her. She knew her name was going to be out there, and she didn't want all of her personal information out there? Or was she trying to hide something a little bit more serious? I fight with myself back and forth, parts of the interview I'm listening or I'm reading, I'm thinking one way, and then I hear something else and I start thinking the other way again. It's like I go back and forth. And so I don't know. There's times I'm thinking she was just... No, she had nothing to do with it, and then I'll read something and or listen to her interview, or even through this interview, there's parts where I'm like, okay, maybe she didn't, and then I hear another part and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, maybe she did. So it's like I'm just fighting with myself back and forth about it. I don't know. I really don't. I try to put myself in people's situation as much as possible to kind of understand where they're coming from, so it could have just been to keep some of her personal things, but then then there's other parts in this that kind of make you wonder. I'll tell you when we get to the parts like where like when she starts asking him the weird questions, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And then when she asks him to delete all their messages and stuff, so was that just to keep her personal life out of the light, or was she trying to hide something? It does make you wonder, but like a lot of people are so sure. I'm not 100%. I'm not so sure as a lot of you are. Okay, let me continue. He and NK went camping in the Sand Dunes National Park, which he always wanted to do. Every time he opened up his phone and saw pictures of his wife and children, he questioned what he was doing with NK. But do you remember later on in the interview when he said when he's with her, like he has blinders over, like he forgets he's married, he forgets he has his kids. Like that whole time in July, he said he spent the night at her house, so he wasn't reminded. He kind of forgot about that life, and he was just in that moment. So, but then he's saying, when he saw pictures, he questioned. I don't know. I mean, maybe it was he tried to forget, but every time he saw it, but then when he wasn't looking at the pictures, he did forget. I don't know. But I just thought that was kind of messed up that he just basically like out of sight, out of mind. When I'm not at the house being reminded and I'm with her, I forget I'm even married. I forget about my kids. That's wow. So every time he opened up his phone and saw pictures of his wife and children, he questioned what he was doing with NK. Every time he was with NK, he felt like he didn't think, and there was a blinder in my face. He has pictures of his wife and daughters in his prison cell, and he talks to them every morning and every night. He has a book in his cell, which was the same book he used to read to Celeste. He reads the book to his daughters along with some scripture every night. He wished it never happened, and he never had a blinder over his eyes and could have seen what was going on. And I just want to say another little quick thing. I was actually kind of surprised to hear the emotion that he had, like to hear him break down and cry. I did not expect that because the whole time, the whole interrogation before he confessed, and the whole time he supposedly, when his family was missing, there was like not one single emotion, not one single tear, and so I was surprised to hear that emotion, and it sounded real. It really did. I would like to see the video to kind of watch his body language and stuff too, but it did sound like real emotion. But not to say that a psychopath or a narcissist or a sociopath can't fake that. Of course they can, but I was just surprised how real it sounded and that he even did cry and get emotional. So that kind of made me take a step back, and I don't know. I'm still processing. I'm still trying to figure out what and how, what I feel, and I'm still not completely sure how I feel about it. But anyway, okay. He wished it never happened, and he never had a blinder over his eyes and could have seen what was going on. He stayed at NK's house almost every night. His wife and daughters were in North Carolina. He felt like he didn't have time at home to think about his marriage when Shanann and the girls were out of state. He went home after work to work out, eat dinner, and then would go over NK's house. He slept over NK's house almost the entire month of July. And I don't think with her interview, did she make it seem like they saw each other that much? I'm trying to think. I'd have to go back over it. But I feel like she didn't make it seem like they saw each other every night, but maybe she did. I'd have to see. Being away from home allowed him to not think about being a father and husband because he wasn't surrounded by reminders of his family. He wished he had met NK at work and kept it as a work relationship only. It feels like a roller coaster ride that I just kept punching a ticket on and never could get off. NK wanted to have sex all the time. He never had to worry about saying something stupid around NK and never had to plan what he was going to say when he was with her. NK asked him if he had ever strayed away before, and I told her no. He told NK that it felt like she had a leash on him and she was able to tug him away from Shanann. Wow. So she knew that. He told her that. Wow. So she knew she had him wrapped around her finger. Like anything she said, he would do. And that's what I'm saying. There's no way she didn't take advantage of it. I in some way or the other. Whether they were just little statements that kind of planted some thoughts into his head about, I don't know, if it was as far as about killing his family or just about, listen, I have to come first, you can't put your your family first anymore, whether she meant it by killing him or just by, not being there. But he obviously took it the wrong way, so that's where I think even indirectly she had some sort of pull in manipulating him in a way. Now, whether it was literally, like she said, kill your family, or was she there, I don't know. But I do think she was trying to pull him away from his family. And as much as she said, she always said, your kids come first. She talked to them first and then me. But when you hear his story, it's always like she freaks out because she's second best. And she's worried, like, oh, I'm always going to come second. And he had to talk her off the ledge that one time. You'll hear in the interview where he said he had to take her off the ledge because he had to go home after Shanann was trying to get a hold of him, and he had to go home. So when Shanann called him back, he would be at home, and she was freaking out like, oh, I'm always gonna come second. Like, that doesn't sound to me somebody who's like, no, put your family first, put your kids first. That sounds to me like somebody like, no, why are you putting them first? Put me first. I'm going to leave. And I think he even said she threatened, well, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to leave. I can't do this, So it's like she's using threats. She's using, what'd you call that, where it's like, well, if you don't do this, then I'm leaving, So it's like, maybe she didn't word it like that, but that's exactly what she's saying. If she's like, I can't come second. I can't come second like this, so I can't do this anymore. I'm going to take a step back. That's really saying, if you want to still see me, you have to start making some changes and put me first, or I'm out of here. And she knew it. I mean, as far as that, she knew what she was doing, and that's what he started to do. Started to put her first. With regard to Watt's relationship with Shanann, Watts explained his first date with Shanann. Shanann said he wasn't her type. Watts said he always had to pursue Shanann and always helped organize her medications inside her pillbox. Watts said he went to Shanann's colonoscopy a few months after they got together, and she told him she knew he was a keeper after he went. His mother was always hesitant about Shanann.